Hello, everyone. Welcome to Puppet Time Online. I'm your host, Eric Wright, brought to you by the Puppet Kitchen. As you know, Puppet Time Online is your chance to sit down with some of the puppetry community's finest and me and hear about what they know about. And today is a very special episode. If you're watching on YouTube, you're looking at the side of my face. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Facebook Live. Hello, Twitch. It's a very special episode because today we're going back to our roots. It's sort of a throwback day to do a live Q&A with all of you on Instagram Live. So there's a banner on the YouTube video. Head on, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, go on over to Instagram right now at the Puppet Kitchen and check us out. And today is your day to ask me questions about whatever you want. And that could be about puppetry. It could be about running a small business. That could be about, I don't know, dinosaurs. I'm kind of into dinosaurs right now, or space, whatever. We have like a bunch of rovers on Mars right now. Anyway, I'm excited about it. But I'm excited to see you all here. I see that there's a bunch of people watching on Instagram right now. So hello to all of you. And if you have questions that you want to ask me, go ahead and put them in the comments. I normally do this on Facebook Live or on Instagram where the comments are over here or over here or over here. On Instagram, put them down in that comment section and let me know what you want to know about. This is your chance to find out what I know about, I guess. It's sort of a tables turned kind of a day, you might say. But there's lots of exciting things happening just in New York, in the New York puppetry scene in general. The fastest way to find out about any of that is to subscribe to the Henson Happenings newsletter, which is a great resource, which will tell you all about all the great things. I just saw Shayna Stripe's show, Mine, at Dixon Place, and it was incredible. It was a totally amazing live show created to be broadcast, to be live streamed, like created for video in the theater, which I thought was just an incredible way to create theater in this world that we are now in, where a lot of your audience is going to be remote. I'm super interested in all that. And Shane is just an incredible person. We're super excited that we're going to be able to have her on the show in just a few weeks. We have a ton of cool guests lined up for the next coming weeks. We're going to talk to Pam Arciero, who is the artistic director at the O'Neill Puppetry Conference, which is really great. We're going to talk to her about all of the upcoming events at the conference. We're going to talk to her about running the conference. And if you caught our show with Jean Marie Keevens, you'll have seen a little bit about what the O'Neill is and all of that. And we'll be talking more with her. Pam's just amazing. She also plays Grangetta on Sesame Street, and it's just the world's most wonderful person. So I'm excited about that. We're going to be talking with Martin Robinson next month. Of course, he is a long-time performer on Sesame Street and originated many roles like Telly Monster. He's also the original designer and puppeteer for Little Shop of Horrors, the original production back in the 80s. And on that same note, I'm super excited about the announcement today that Cuomo made that Broadway shows are going to be coming back in September at the discretion of the show. So that announcement's still super new, and hopefully that means there will be an announcement soon from Little Shop. We're still all crossing our fingers that we will come back when Broadway comes back. It seems really likely, and it's really exciting to have something to look forward to. Oh, hi, Sheena. I saw that you just joined. I was just talking about you. Were your ears ringing? I was just talking about how wonderful your show, Mine, was. I believe it. Well, let me know if it's still available on streaming on demand at Dixon Place. I forget. I have to check up on that. But Dixon Place is streaming some excellent new shows. There's another one called Unicorn Afterlife. Gosh, I think that's what it's called, Unicorn Afterlife. Yes. Okay, good. Oh, yeah. Hi. It's called Unicorn Afterlife, and it stars Justin Perkins created it. It stars a ton of really great puppeteers like Kate Brem and Jenny Han, and there's I think is Dorothy James in that one? I don't remember. But speaking of Dorothy James, Andy Manjuk and Dorothy James are presenting their show, Bill's 44th. I believe it just got funded on Kickstarter, and that's an incredible show. If you haven't seen it, it'll be coming up again also at Dixon Place. Oh, what did you say, Shana? So it's not streaming anymore, but yeah, you're right. There's tons of great shows at Dixon Place coming up. That place is just great, and they've been doing a really good job switching over to remote programming as well. I see there's a couple more people here joining us. If you have any questions for me about what it's like being a puppeteer or anything that's going on, it doesn't even have to be puppetry related. You know, I do have a lot more things that I do. I run a small business, for instance. Oh, Koi's questions just joined. Hi, Courtney. We were just chatting on Instagram about how she just found out that in Indiana, green peppers are sometimes known as mangoes. And we're like, well, that's crazy. It turns out it's because the only way to get mangoes was to pickle them, like Indian pickle. And sometimes they would substitute mango with green pepper in that dish. And so then mango just kind of, the process became known as mangoes, like we would call pickles or like Kleenex. Anyway, Koi's Questions is a great podcast that I was on a while ago, and Courtney's great. She has a ton of fun stuff on Instagram, so make sure you follow her as well. What else? I was going to talk about some of the other fun stuff that's coming up at Puppet Kitchen. We just got done delivering a set of fireflies for a dance theater show called Woof Woof that's putting together a sort of reel to expand the show and fund the show more. But it was really fun to do some light up puppets, which were really great. If you have questions about that, put them in the comments. But I designed them, and they were built by Essie Wyndham, who is living out in Arizona now, which is like crazy. It's, the Puppet Kitchen has this huge network of builders, and since COVID times, a lot of those builders have kind of gone all over the place. But because people keep their workshops and like keep ways to work, we've been really happy to continue working with people and build shops and puppet builders all over the country. That's been really, really fun. So there's still fun things going on at Puppet Kitchen. There's still fun things to come. We're collaborating with On-Site Opera right now. We're designing some puppets for a new production of theirs. And that production is called The Perfect Pig. And we'll get to more of that in a little bit. Oh, but I see there's a question coming in from Adden.rd. So I've always been super obsessed with anything medieval, and I've seen a lot of puppetry influence from back in that time. Do I have some knowledge on this history you could share? That is a great question. Medieval puppetry. I have to think back to all the stuff that I learned at UConn, because we covered a lot of historical puppetry at UConn. I feel like the puppetry that would have been around in medieval times probably would have been, so I'm going to be guessing at a lot of this stuff. I think that there probably would have been some glove puppet type shows, like a Punch and Judy style show. Though I feel like now Punch and Judy is maybe a little bit later than medieval shows. I feel like marionettes, some kind of marionettes probably would have been around during medieval times. So either like marionettes like we know them today, where they're all on strings, or they would have been like a Czech style marionette, which is like a solid wood rod to the puppet and then arms and legs and things manipulated with strings. That Czech style marionette was a very popular like touring style show. And marionettes, as we know them, or like all string marionettes, I would say, like they actually came out of church practice, which is why they're called marionettes, is because it's French for Little Mary, right? They were used in the mystery plays, the telling the story of the New Testament, and so they would use little figures on strings to tell the story of Mary. Which I think is kind of cool that we keep that line linguistically today. So probably that's the kind of puppetry that would have been used in medieval times, although I'm not 100% certain about that. But it's a really good question. Thank you, Amanda, who, as we're learning, is the official RD for Coe's questions. That's that's something that we'll have to look into. If I don't know anything 100% right away, I'm going to be Googling this later just to be sure. For those of you who are just joining us, it's today's special episode of Puppet Time Online. It's your chance to ask me any questions you want. It could be about puppetry. It could be about the things that are just going on behind me. It could be about running a small business. Could it be about, I don't know, some favorite tools? I brought favorite tools. That's a prompt. I brought favorite tools so I could talk about that in case you guys are interested. Oh, great. Another question. Wow, life be wow. That's also true. Do tell us about light up puppets, small on rods or strings. Puppetry solidarity from Ireland. Hi from Ireland. Oh my gosh, this is so great. So these light up puppets, Puppet Kitchen has done some light up stuff, not a ton, but some. We did some stuff for the Very Hungry Caterpillar show when we were designing those puppets. The great part about putting lights into puppets these days is that there's tons of resources for LED lights in other industries. And for this puppet, for these lightning bugs that we made, or fireflies, as you might call them, or twinkle bugs, as Katrina likes to call them, we borrowed from the light up, like installing lights in your car industry. So it started with picking the battery basically, and there's tons of 12-volt batteries that you can get on Amazon. We have a nice pack that we found that we've used when we built a giant elk for PAX West for Magic the Gathering. It had a light up heart, so we wanted a really bright light, so we picked a 12-volt battery, which has a lot of power and lasts a long time. And those are not the smallest batteries in the world, but they're not huge. I mean, it's basically like 2 decks of cards put together. So I started with that, and then searched through Amazon for you kind of just match the voltage to the lights, or you match the industry, right? So you've this is a 12-volt battery that plugs in with this kind of plug. Where can I find lights that have that kind of plug already? So there's minimal soldering to do. There's minimal wiring and electronics. And when it's lighting at that basic level, it's almost like plumbing. It's make sure that the current is going one way and then comes back the other way, and that everything connects. And if you need a switch, then it interrupts one of those. That kind of thing. It's almost like plumbing, which makes it that's about the level of electronics that I can understand. But the 12-volt battery really is great because it makes lights that are so bright, and you can really play with. You don't really have to worry about little tiny LEDs that you can't see. Oh, another question. This one from Shayna. I'd love to hear about your journey starting your own business. Is this Puppet Kitchen? Yeah. And can you talk about how you got started? Any advice for people trying to start their own production company? Well, that's a really great question, Shayna. So brief history of the Puppet Kitchen is that in 2006, myself and two other puppetry artists that I was working with at the time, Michael Schubach and Emily DeCola, Emily and I were working on a production of Animal Farm, the musical, with puppets. And the space opened up on East 4th Street and it was a former industrial kitchen space. So we moved in there with Michael as a third, like just to share a studio, just to like share a build shop. And we just did whatever, like we did whatever we could to hang on to that space after the Animal Farm build was done. We kept getting, like between the three of us, somebody was always working. And we worked that way for like 2 years. And we just kept hiring each other over and over. And we like developed a working relationship, which I think is super important. If you're getting into business with somebody else, that's been my experience. You know, you're like kind of marrying that person. You guys are sharing finances. So like you're sharing finances and responsibilities, and you're like depending on each other day to day. So it's super important to have a really solid level of trust in your business partners. And we had that. And beyond that, we were like, starting a business is a thing that people do sometimes. We could probably do that. So we like Googled, how do you start a business? And I feel like I'm a little embarrassed by it, but also I feel like that's kind of where we're at. A lot of us artists, a lot of we artists, we don't go to business school because we're making art. Like our goal is to make art and to do that and to have that be our livelihood and have that support us in our lives. Well, so, you know, we used like an online filings company, bizfilings.com, to like file our incorporation papers, because like they made it easy or whatever. You don't have to use a business company like that, but there's lots of them out there. And we were like, we're more than just one person, so we need to have some kind of organization. We need to be, we filed as an LLC, which is a limited liability corporation, which basically just means it's like just these three people working together as a partnership. There's no employees. You just are like sharing liability and resources and funds and all of that sort of thing. Then we had to figure out what that meant and what running a business meant. We kind of backed into it. I think there's been a ton of stuff that I've learned about running a business over the years, and a lot of it is like planning. But I also feel like in some regards, everybody's just got to jump in at some point. If you're going to start a business, you kind of just have to jump in and do it. And you plan as much as you can, and then you adjust as you go, and you keep trying to get better. And I think that's a really important thing. That was a big hurdle that we had at the beginning, was this feeling, getting over this feeling that we had to have everything figured out before we took another step. And that turned out to be a insurmountable hurdle, because there's always something else to figure out. And also it just prevents you from doing anything. And you can always get better. You will always want to do something a little bit different. So we spent the first year kind of just doing what we had been doing, but keeping track of what we had been doing. And I think that is that's a great place to start if you want to change anything about what it is you're doing. I think the first thing is just to gather data on what it is you're doing already. Don't try and change anything yet. Just figure out what it is you're doing. So for a business, it's keeping track of your money. It's keeping track of what you buy, and you know, if you're like contracting other people to do stuff, where you're spending your money, and it's keeping track of where your money comes from. And like that's a big part of it. And that was a huge learning curve for us, because again, like we're artists, so we have no idea what we were doing before we started doing it. So we gathered data for like a year. We didn't stop gathering data, but we did that for a solid year. And then the second year was like the look back at the first year and sort of saying, oh no, what did we do? And then like starting to make changes. That took another year. And then the third year was like, okay, now what do we want to do? And like, how do we want to move forward differently? And so it really took like 3 years to get to the point where we were starting to steer what we were doing. And in that time, we still were making puppets. Like we still were doing stuff. We were just continuing to gather data, continuing to look back at what we had done, and continuing to evaluate. And that's all of the steps that I feel like you need to have in place before you start trying to steer in any meaningful way. And fortunately, we kept, between the three of us, kept having enough shows, and those after the third year, those shows started to echo back on each other. So like shows that we had done in the first year of Puppet Kitchen, people had seen and came back to us and said, hey, someone else came to us and said, hey, I saw that thing that you did. Do you want to do this other thing? And that started to really build where our money, like where the business was coming from, where the jobs were coming from. And then it kind of picked up from there. And, you know, in the best of worlds, you anticipate that and you are like prepared for what happens when things get better. And you also have a plan B for if things don't go that way. But so Emily and Michael and I, we all like tried to figure out how to do all of this. A huge thing that we had to learn also was how to delegate and like how to be managers. Like if we were going to be running the business, even when it was just the three of us, even before we started bringing in regular contractors, later we reorganized the business and became a different kind of business, an S Corp, put everybody on payroll, became, you know, like it was a very different, like we learned all about all of that stuff, much more than your typical puppeteer might know. But the point is, learning how to delegate and learning how to manage was an entirely new skill, an entirely different skill into itself. And this was a big challenge for us because we were puppeteers that were coming from a place of wanting to do everything and feeling pretty good about being able to do everything. And especially in a partnership, but in a lot of collaborations, most collaborations, coming to peace with not doing everything is the only way to get anything done, or to have any kind of good feelings of ownership and like feeling like you contributed in a good way to the project as a whole. So the example that I like to give is that in the early days of Puppet Kitchen, we knew that it was important to like keep track of our books, keep track of where our money was coming from and where it was going. And so as three, you know, co-owners, we were all keeping track of the books. Like it was all our responsibility. And so we decided to all keep track of the books and all enter the information. And what we realized in like year 2 and year 3 is that we all had slightly different ways of keeping that information, and it made it maddening to get any information out of that. It was just a complete mess. All of our books were a mess. And so we started delegating, like who was going to be in charge of this bit, who was going to be in charge of this bit, and I would be in charge of the books, and like I would come up with that system, and like I would keep track of it. And that also took a long time to like figure out how I could do that without having it take up all of my time at the company. But if we hadn't delegated that task, we wouldn't have been able to grow as a company. We delegated the management of the apprenticeship program. We delegated the management of the social media. All of that stuff that took time away really became really helpful. And so when you look at it from a place of collaboration, it becomes much clearer, rather than like management. I'm going to be a manager. Well, none of us wanted to become managers because we wanted to be puppeteers, but like these are kind of the things you need to learn how to do so that you can do your creative work free from distraction. That's like ultimately the goal. By cordoning off time, by cordoning off responsibilities, by trusting other people to do the things that need to be done, you create space for your creative work to be done unencumbered and without distraction by the business side of things. And that's, I think, the only way to do it. I think the business side of things and the creative side of things are always going to be at odds with each other. If you are trying to be too creative while you're doing business stuff, it's really going to make the business suffer. And if you're trying to be too business oriented while you're doing creative stuff, your creative stuff is going to suffer. The only way to do it is for the business side to create space for the creative side, and the creative side to create value, I think, for the business side. I'm going to pause for just a second. Oh yeah, great. My dad was asking why I'm looking over here instead of here at the camera on YouTube. But I was going to say I can just drop the Instagram link into the chat over there, and then you guys can come join us on Instagram Live. The other thing I wanted to say about business stuff as a puppet, hi Elodie, as a puppeteer is that if you are doing work on your own and making money from it, like if you've designed a puppet and someone has paid you for it, and if that's even a little bit a part of your income, the government is already going to classify you as a business. Like they already kind of think of you as a business if that's what you're doing. You may be a very small business, and they call you a sole proprietor, or even just like doing a DBA, doing business as, like they kind of classify you that way. So I think it's worth putting in a little bit of effort to figuring out how to run your arts practice as a business. And just putting a little bit of thought into that side of what you do. If you bring in money, then like for your creative work, you should like put some attention into how to do that. And if your goal is to do that more, then like it's worth putting in the time collecting the data about it, checking on it, and then making some goals about like how you want to change that to be more, bringing in more of what you do. And there's 100 million different ways of doing that. And you're going to find the one that's unique to you, and then you're going to change it because you're going to change. And like, it's an ever evolving process. But I really think it is worthwhile for your arts practice. For that same reason, like the business side of things will carve out time for you. So your creative time can happen unencumbered. I learned a lot about this from NYFA here in New York. There's an organization called New York Foundation for the Arts, NYFA. They had a Artist as Entrepreneur boot camp that I attended many summers ago. And I believe they still have this program where it's learning about that exact idea. It's like how to run yourself as a business, run your arts practice as a business so that you can grow and expand it to take up as much, like support as much of your life as you want. So I highly recommend that. And Olga's just dropped in the chat here. What are you looking forward to PK's future? Also, since discussion about dinosaurs is on the table, your 5-year-old wants to watch Jurassic Park. In your professional opinion, should I say yes? Well, that's a great couple of questions. Hi, Nick Lehane, who also joined. Nick Lehane is an excellent puppeteer. If you haven't seen, I think the Plastic Bag Store stopped streaming, didn't it? God, I just watched that the other day, and it's phenomenal. Robin Frohart's Plastic Bag Store, of which Nick is a part, is just incredible. Olga, to your questions, what am I looking forward to in PK's future? Well, I'm looking forward to, so Puppet Kitchen has always kind of been, without really us knowing it or acknowledging it, Puppet Kitchen's kind of been a business-to-business operation, where it's like the Puppet Kitchen's a business, and we are working with production companies to solve their puppetry problems or fulfill their puppetry needs. It's like, do they need designers and builders and performers? Yes, we do all of that. Do they need just a performer or just puppet director or consultants? Like, we do all of that. The next phase, I think, is doing a little bit more intentional business to consumer stuff. So we're in the process of sort of opening up and creating some better things to sell at the Puppet Kitchen store, and things to sell to you, our viewers, our fans, about people who are interested in puppetry, but also people who are just interested in well-designed things that move, I think is kind of the hallmark of what Puppet Kitchen, that's at the heart of what Puppet Kitchen does, is that we design and create and bring to you well-designed things that move, things that you may not have thought of as puppets. Since we work in every different style of puppetry, not just Muppet style, but rod puppets and marionettes and shadow puppets, the whole world of puppetry is open to us in creating things for you. So we're brainstorming a whole bunch of ideas. If you have thoughts about things that you might want us to sell or be a part of, or like provide to you as fans of puppetry or as fans of Puppet Kitchen, let us know. We want to know what you want to see. That, I think, is a really exciting thing about what's coming up in Puppet Kitchen. Other things that are coming up, of course, I'm really excited about potentially going back to Little Shop of Horrors if that happens again, which sounds like, you know, crossing your fingers, knocking on wood, that will happen in the fall. And then I'm also really excited about picking up as we start to open New York back up and as the states start to open back up. I'm really excited about picking up where we left off with a bunch of different projects that couldn't move forward after we shut down. And I think that a lot of those projects will come back. And that's exciting to me to be able to come back to those with a fresh set of eyes, with renewed enthusiasm and like renewed energy, and like come back to those projects. Now, more importantly, to your point about Jurassic Park, the movie that got me into puppetry, I would say, is it appropriate for a 5-year-old? I mean, probably. Probably it's good accompanied watching with a 5-year-old, because it's pretty scary. Like, it's a pretty scary, there's a couple of jump scares, and there's like, you know, there's some like snarly teeth and like dismembered limbs from time to, a guy gets eaten off a toilet famously in Jurassic Park. But it's Spencer says probably, this is terrible advice. It might be. I'm gonna just couch that by saying I have no idea what 5-year-olds are like, but I kind of imagine that they're pretty cool by 5. And if you were there with them, you could watch Jurassic Park, right? Spencer, chime in. That's probably true, right? Spencer has not a 5-year-old, but you know, at least a kid. I feel like is at least a, you know, a one-up on what kids like. I don't know. But Jurassic Park's a great movie. Don't watch any of the sequels. I'm sorry. Spencer says Scream is perfect for 3-year-olds. That's true. Just because they famously 3-year-olds are into classic horror and 80s horror, so they would really get all the references. I think that's true. Plus, they like to scream. So it's written about that. The other fun thing I was going to say about Jurassic Park is, I mean, the reason that I liked it so much is that I was very much into dinosaurs, probably as much into dinosaurs then as I am now. Well, I saw it when I was probably 12 when I saw Jurassic Park, because it came out when I was 12, because I'm nearly 40. But you know, as a kid, I was very into dinosaurs, so I knew all the names, and I knew, like, I love seeing them come to life on screen. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. And then if you want to show them all of the behind the scenes footage, YouTube has tons of cool stuff. Actually, I would have died for this video like I would have died for YouTube to be around when I was growing up and obsessed with Jurassic Park, because Stan Winston Studios, who did all of the effects for Jurassic Park, they have all these really amazing videos online of the making of Jurassic Park, like doing all the what they call plastic bag, trash bag tests of the velociraptors, which is so reassuring now to see, because that's how we design puppets, is like, let's tape some trash bags together, and like, let's just crumple up some paper and like see what it's going to be like to move around inside this thing. It's really nice to see other professional companies do that too. But it's really great to see the behind the scenes stuff. Maybe you should start with that, because then he'll know that the dinosaurs maybe aren't as real. Anyway, Elodie is asking, what's your favorite puppet that I've ever seen? That's a really good question, Elodie. I've seen a lot of puppets in my day. Okay, there's a couple that come to mind. Okay, well, I'm a huge fan of manual cinema, just in general. It's like, I've always been a fan of, they do overhead projector shadow puppet shows. We talked to Julia Miller on this show a couple months ago and learned about that. And they have taken this simple idea and elevated it to an incredible, like a beautiful artistic level, which I love. Like, that's what I love to see, is a really simple, elegant idea that's elevated. So their shows consistently amaze me, and I'm like consistently wowed by them. But it's not one puppet that wows me. Like, it's the show, it's the puppet show. I think that's also part of it, which is like, it's the whole machine working together that I'm really impressed by. Richard Bradshaw, speaking of elegant things done really well, was a classic shadow puppeteer, like screen in front of you, shadows pressed against the screen, sort of manipulating them from behind with a light source right behind. And I've only seen a little bit of his work, but it's so beautiful and poignant and funny that it's like that elegance that I really, really love. Other puppets, other favorite puppets that I've ever seen. Obviously, Big Bird holds a very special place in my heart. My mom remembers that I was very much a Big Bird kid as a little one. Like he played a very important role in my life growing up. And so later, when I got to be an assistant puppeteer on Sesame Street and meet Carol Spinney and meet the real Big Bird, that was a highlight of my life, I would say, without a doubt. Other favorite puppets. I mean, why don't we put the T-Rex in Jurassic Park in that list too? That idea of like giant robot dinosaurs, like life-sized robot dinosaurs, had such an impact on me that like knowing that it was not a real dinosaur, but knowing that it was like so real, that whole idea that you hold both of those completely opposite views at the same time, and it's okay. That's where the magic is for me. You watch a puppet show and you see this thing and you know that it's not real, but you also know that it's real. And both of those things are completely valid, completely, like, they are as strong as each other in your head. And that's why it's magic. And part of knowing that this Jurassic Park dinosaur like wasn't real, and like I knew how it worked. And every time I watch that movie, like I know what's going on. I've seen the behind the scenes enough that it just makes it more magical, knowing all of the how it worked information. I feel that way a little bit about like science and biology, right? That was one of my first loves before I got into theater. Was like I was a science kid, and I feel that way about like a lot of people, I think, have this feeling that the more if you know how a flower works, or you know how a flower blooms, you know all the parts, or you take it all apart, or you sort of know the anatomy of it, that it somehow diminishes the magic of it. And I think the complete opposite. I think it only makes it more beautiful, and it makes it more magical and wondrous. So I think that kind of carries over. That's a good question, though, Elodie. There's a lot of really great puppets out there. I think that's also just that's so cool. Especially like, I don't know. I also kind of joke that like every 10 years there's another show that comes out that people are like, oh, that's a puppet. Like, you know, it was King Kong on Broadway, where they're like, oh, that's a huge puppet, but it's a puppet. And then before that it was War Horse, and before that it was I don't know, maybe Lion King. And you know, the puppetry never goes away. People are always experimenting with it. And and Grogu, of course, like perfect example, right? There's one of my favorite quotes that I read a lot about Star Wars and Grogu on The Mandalorian, and like there was a quote I have to find the source of this quote so I can really attribute correctly, but great CGI dates itself in a couple of years, and a great puppet is great forever. It's like a great character forever. And can we make better puppets than like the original Yoda? I mean, technically, Grogu is like technically more advanced than the original Yoda. But are they like equally solid characters? Yes, they're like, and the CGI Yoda that came out later, like we've forgotten about him. No, but like now it looks so dated, and we just can't connect. And I think it says a lot about having something in the room with the actors, but it says a lot about having about the belief of like a trust in the belief of the audience, that they can look at this thing that is clearly not a real thing and believe it. And when you give them so much information with CG, most CG, like there's something missing there. There's just something a little bit missing there. There's something about not giving the audience all the information that I think is really valuable. It's hard to sell that idea. It's hard to sell the idea of we're not going to show you everything, or we're not going to have a puppet that does everything. Because that's what people want. People want magic. They want, and magic is, you know, I don't know, they want a violin that plays all the notes. Like, but you can't build a violin that plays all the notes, nor would you want to. You want the violin that plays the right notes, and it's in the, you know, it's in, that only happens when you have a well-made object in the hands of somebody that can play it well. It's true with puppets. These are really great questions, you all. Hello again, for those of you who are joining us. This is your chance to ask me any questions you want. Puppetry, small business, dinosaurs, the sky's the limit. Put your questions in the comments here on Instagram. For those of us who are still watching on YouTube, there's five of you, join us on Instagram and ask your questions there. If you really want to drop a question over here, I'll catch it, but it's only out of the corner of my eye. But hello, everyone who's also watching on YouTube. Let's talk about favorite tools. I brought it as a thing that we could talk about. It's a thing that people put on the internet sometimes. What are your favorite tools? Now, today's tools are about cardboard. Why? Because I have sort of backed into cardboard as a medium for myself. I don't want to be known as a guy that really works well in cardboard, especially not after seeing like stuff like Robin Frohart's stuff, whose cardboard art is exquisite, and her puppetry made it, like, stuff she makes with cardboard is outrageously good. We can't compare each other. We can't compare ourselves as artists to other artists. People are doing different things. My cardboard stuff is like, I'll draw a thing on cardboard and then cut it out and then like make that move somehow. That's also good. But I end up working with a lot of cardboard, not necessarily in final product, though sometimes, but a lot of the time in mock-ups and design. And it is a really great resource to get your ideas out of your sketchbook, out of your own head, and into 3D space, which is vital for making a puppet show. You have to have it. You can't think your way to a good puppet show. You have to do it. And it's also a great benefit because everything is, a lot of times stuff is being shipped to us all the time. And these boxes that we get, it's like they're also delivering free mock-up materials to us. So why not put it to work? So I pulled a box that was delivered to us today. And then I pulled some tools that I like to use in my puppet life to show them to you. This box also came with some like crumpled brown paper, which, as you know, makes great like Bunraku style puppets, stuff that moves. We may do a workshop about that in a little bit, but just like crumpled paper and masking tape is really great for mocking up whatever you need. We're not going to talk about that today. First of all, if you have ever, none of this is sponsored, by the way. This is really just like stuff I'm excited that I found and hopefully will help you in your life. But like one thing I always had so much trouble was that I have cut myself using a mat knife or an X-Acto blade on cardboard so many times because I'm impatient. And if you're using a blade to cut cardboard, you have to do it in multiple passes. You have to have a super sharp knife, and you have to like cut on multiple passes. And those blades are often very wide, so they don't make turns really well. And you know, I'm impatient, so I like sometimes just cut myself. And so I try and cut cardboard with scissors, and all of the like regular scissors that I have are terrible at cutting cardboard. You get like one snip in, and then you can't go anywhere, like you can't move it or anything. So then I found these on Amazon. They're Canary brand cardboard scissors. They're especially made for cutting cardboard, of course. But like, here's some features. It has a little offset cutting area, so it gets out of the way of the cut. Got big old handles, so you don't tire your hands out. And these and they're like angled this way, so you can cut along the ground. These babies just want to cut in a straight line, but like it really, it is a life changer, you guys. Now, like if you're just like cutting down big boxes, like cutting flaps off of boxes so that you have nice big pieces, it's great. I know, Nappy, right? This is going to be a big deal for you. Nappy's also an incredible shadow puppeteer if you guys haven't checked out Nappy's puppets. But like these scissors also do curves. Like you can do some curve stuff. Like it does bend it a little bit. It's not a huge deal, but the point is that like they get out of your way when regular scissors don't. I've used these so much since I've discovered them, and I take them with me to every project where I'm doing like some devising work, because cardboard and crumpled paper and tape is like such a huge part of just like you need to get stuff into space so you can play with it. So like having sheets of cardboard, bringing these scissors along so we can like quickly make stuff if you need it is huge. The other thing that I also bring along with that is like a Sharpie, obviously for marking stuff up, which you all know about. But Canary also makes cardboard saws. And this is like a little handheld saw specifically for cutting cardboard. You guys, it's also a game changer. This blade has a very fine serrated edge. So like you wouldn't want to run this across your fingers, but it doesn't like if you accidentally touch it or if you like press against it, like it's not going to cut you. It's not a sharp blade. And it has a like a rounded point, but it's kind of been tapered down. So it punches through cardboard very, very well. So like if you want to put armholes in a cardboard box and like make a robot suit with it, then like you punch through the top and like saw a little hole, and you punch through the sides and you saw a little hole. You guys, I'm telling you, like this is like what my life is now, is live streaming cardboard cutting. But you're all watching it. And Nappy's also excited about this. So like I'm gonna try and do this while I'm holding it. There we go. And it just like, I mean, you guys. So it doesn't leave like the cleanest edge in the world, like, but it's not the roughest edge in the world. Like, this is totally acceptable, you guys, for doing mock-up stuff where like just making shapes, cutting out shapes. You cut that and hot glue stuff together to make, you know, you can make it really like it just takes the time out of what you need to do. Hi.
Hey, can I provide a public service announcement?
Stop cutting cardboard.
Stop cutting cardboard that makes me feel like you're going to cut off your fingers and I'm going to have to take you to
That's what I'm saying. It's very hard to cut your own fingers with this thing.
Yeah, but I think anyone who just watched you cut that to the screen, because that's not usually the angle you're holding it at.
No. My
heart stopped. So I'm actually working on some stuff. I don't have time to go to urgent care. I love you very much. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. Thanks,
Katrina.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
As usual, Katie's keeping this show running smoothly. What's next? So this one, oh yeah, speaking of things that's going to give Katie a heart attack, I also found that having an awl on hand is super useful for lots of things. Obviously, this one is very sharp, and you don't want to meet the business end of this with any part of your body in any significant way. But it's really great for, I mean, it's great for making holes and stuff, but if you're working with cardboard, this is how you make your joints, right? You like punch the holes in a couple different pieces of cardboard all at once, and then you can run a dowel, a piece of wire, you could run a rope, like a piece of paracord through it. These are all like dowel, wire, paracord. These are all things that I have on hand when I'm just like mocking up stuff or in a devising role. So an awl is a very good thing to have on hand. Have like a cap for it, like have a safe place to keep it, because this one is rather sharp, and you don't want this one to get into your skin or eyes. The other stuff is like a little bit safe. Like, okay, don't run the cardboard saw over your skin, but take precautions. Don't get this near your eyes. be safe with all of the tools. Just remember. The last one I have is not necessarily for cardboard, but just a handy tool that I picked up. And it was one of those things that I was like, why didn't I get these earlier? Especially when I'm like in a room where I'm devising stuff with puppetry. And I brought along dowels, or like I want to make a rod puppet or something like that real quick. So in the past, I have done the unsafe thing, which is to like use a box cutter to like shave down in the middle of it. If I wanted to cut a dowel, like shave down a dowel and then like snap it and like sand it up, and like that's not great, and it's time consuming. Or I might have like a Leatherman with a saw on it, and then that gets dust all over the place. And then I was like, oh well, why don't I just get like some pruning shears that can tackle like. In puppetry situations, we're using dowels that are like at the smallest, probably a 1/4 inch for joints and things, and at the largest, probably like, I don't know, 1/2 inch. These are some pruning shears that have a little ratchet in them, so that they can really like snip, like go through a dowel in a couple of presses. And it like uses mechanical advantage to like cut its way through. These are super sharp, and again, you want to be safe with these, but it's going to make a really clean cut in a dowel really quickly, so that you can get back to being creative. Like that's what it's all about with tools. It's like getting the job done in a way that is, not getting in your way. It's not taking you out of the creative time. Teddy was just asking what the head in the bowl up here is. That's a very good question, Teddy. Thank you for asking it. The next tool that I wanted to, I'm just kidding. That head is a mock-up. It's like a maquette for a puppet that I made for the Maltz Jupiter Theater's Beauty and the Beast. Thanks, Spencer. You're right. If you've got a 5-year-old who's cutting dowels, they're going to get some of these shears. That head was for the old woman that transforms into the like princess that cast a spell on the beast at the beginning of the show. And so I was using some paper sculpture techniques. Albrecht Roser is a puppeteer who traditionally uses a lot of paper sculpture in his work, to like make a face that could be flipped. Like on the back side of it has an old woman's face, on the front side of it has a young woman's face. So it could be like a light, easy puppet to make a very large puppet that also collapsed into a very small, like hunchbacked old woman puppet. So that's what that is. Maybe we'll get her down at the end of the show, or maybe she'll just remain mysterious. She's got a lot of stuff. The fishbowl is from Little Red Fish. Remember that show that you were in, Teddy? What else? Oh, yeah. A lot of times people ask about the best kind of shadow light to use. Nickel Haynes asking. It's called an awl. The poker thing, the whole poker thing is called an awl. That's AWL. But it's all right with me. A lot of people ask what my favorite kind of shadow light is. And I haven't done, like, Puppet Kitchen doesn't exclusively do shadow puppetry, but we have done a lot of, like I said, like a lot of devising work that incorporates shadow scenes into the shows. Little Red Fish was one of those, perfect example. And a lot of the first thing that I look for in a shadow light is that you want the smallest possible element with the brightest possible light, so that you can get a very crisp shadow at lots of different distances. Basically, it's like making a reverse pinhole camera, right? You put a bright light behind this little tiny hole, and you will get a wide depth of field on your screen. Well, that's great because LEDs come very, very small now, and they are very, very bright. So that's a plus. However, the thing that isn't great about a lot of LED flashlights these days is they have a little click on the way they turn on and off is they have a little click on the back, and it cycles through like low, medium, high, and then strobe, and then off. And you know, if you're in a performance setting that like, you don't want to have to like douse your flashlight, click through until it's off and then go. You want to just like click it on and have it on and click it off and have it off and have it be the brightness that you want. So I searched and searched and searched, and I finally found this, this Nebo flashlight, which is nice and small. It's rechargeable. It's got a little USB port here for recharging, and it's covered. So it's because this is a tactical flashlight for all your underwater puppet shows. It's got a little USB recharging port. It does have a lens on the front. So if you're using this in a like a shadow puppet show theatrical setting, I would unscrew that so that you just have the bare LED exposed. That lens will also distort your puppetry, your shadow puppetry images. But now you have this single LED, and I think that this is, oh yeah, this is like an 1800 lumen bulb, which is phenomenally bright, which is great. Like that's about like anything 1,000 lumens and above is basically where you want to start for theatrical performances. Anything under that, you're going to have trouble seeing it with any kind of theater lighting. But the best part about this flashlight is the little paddle, the little paddles in the back. And instead of clicking through the various cycles, this one has a big paddle for turning it on and off, like this, big paddle on and off. And the second paddle is for the different modes that it goes through, low and high. And then when you hold it down, it goes to like extra bright for like a couple, you know, not very long, but plenty bright. And it's just the best. Like it's totally silent. There's no clicking noises. You can just like, you know, you can feel where the on-off switch is. There's no like there. I think there is a strobe mode, but it's not easy to get. It's not, you can't mistake your way into the strobe mode, which I just hate. So I highly recommend this, this Nebo flashlight, also on Amazon. So one of the things we've been experimenting with Puppet Kitchen, or that we're going to be rolling out shortly, is like some affiliated links, Amazon affiliated links. You know, you've seen them before, but it will let us, where I'm sort of looking at it as kind of tools that we use all the time, things that we find all the time, things that have been helpful for us that might make it easy for you to find. And then when you click on them, we also get a little bit of money from Amazon. It helps support the Puppet Kitchen, helps support the puppetry community. So you'll find that in our, when we release our, I think you'll find all of these tools when we release our affiliate links, but like, I want to tell you all about them now because I think they're super exciting and I use them all the time. The one downside to this flashlight is that it's not great on camera. Like a lot of LEDs, it gives a little bit of a flicker. I think you can see that on my face right here. And that has to do with like the cycle that the LED is going through and the cycle that the camera is going through. But that's a totally different story. They're great for theatrical lights. So yeah, those are the tools that I brought. Some dangerous, like all tools for cutting cardboard. Getting through stuff is really, you know, but it gets you through quick. These are all grown-up tools for grown-up puppet shows. Not for your kids, Spencer, although she's pretty advanced. Do you guys have any questions about those? Man, we're almost out of time. This has been great. Does anyone have like any last questions while we're wrapping up? So great having you all here. Let me just check real quick and make sure I know who is going to be on Puppet Time next week. It's going to be Pam. Pam Marciero is going to join us next week, next Wednesday at 2 p.m., right in the middle of the week. As usual, we'll be on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch live. And we're going to sit down with Pam and find out what she knows about. So with that, I want to say thanks again. Thanks, Katie, for watching and keeping me safe, as usual. And just remember, you don't have to do everything to do something. We'll see you next time.